several follow-up, but they cannot come to term. Madam Speaker, coming to the judiciary aspect, where the Solicitor General and Legal Secretary, the President should appoint based on the confirmation from the National Assembly. Madam Speaker, I feel so skeptical for this thing because we've seen party interest over national interest in this National Assembly. People wanted to support a bill so that elected members of local government can lose their position. So I believe that thing we need to revisit it and check for another thing that will suit the appointment. Appointments also were thrown out here out of hatred and jealousy because we've seen eminent personalities whose appointments has came here and they were rejected. Madam Speaker, going to political parties, Section 82, subsection 3B. They said no political party shall engage in or encourage violence by intimidating members, party members, or encourage intimidating of its member, supporters, opponent, or any other person. We've seen people outside the country sitting in their comfort zone, as earlier alluded to by my colleague, who are intimidating innocent people, assassinating their character, but the Constitution didn't say anything about that. They only say self. So I think there should be a restriction or a law that will stop them, anybody found wanted to face the full force of the law. Madam Speaker, appointment of judges. I think this. Appointment of Supreme Court judges, that it should be a number of 4 or not less than 4 or not more than 12. I believe this one also, and one need to be a specialist in Sharia. I believe we need to add it to two Sharia judge, because if you see the way English students are represented, it's like the Islamic students are less represented. Madam Speaker, going further, as my colleagues mentioned, that they receive many amounts of insult before the passing of this CRC. And I must say that I was so disappointed by one of our activists who is stationed in this National Assembly here and is representing the Westminster Foundation for Democracy. And I am calling on the clerk of the National Assembly to work in consultation of the Westminster Foundation. Because if they are promoting democracy, I believe an elected representative of the people should not be intimidated, or the affair of the House should not be undermined, because they are asking that the NAM should not touch or change anything. This is a very misleading information, and I'm calling on the authority to work fast on this.
No point of order, Honorable Speaker.
I'm not allowing any point of order.
This is a point of order.
No, Honorable, I think it's a concern that I think you can raise, but then when you're debating on the principles of the bill, I think the concern should be separated from your debate.
Noted.
But you can still raise the concern, but outside at the conclusion of your debate. Your intervention, thank you. Proceed.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I think another recipe for disaster is Section 106, which one half of the resolution that was passed by the National Assembly can impeach a president. I think we need to be very careful, because some of the members, their constituencies represent less number, like 1,000 or 1,005. So if they said one half of the majority can impeach the president, that is not the power of the Gambian people that was vested on the president. Madam Speaker, the last but not the least page 167, that speaks about the term limit of the president. If there is anybody in this parliament who will support the term limit of the president, I will be the first to accommodate the legacy of the coalition government. And this, it reads, notwithstanding, term of office of incumbent president, notwithstanding anything contained in this consequent constitution or any other law or any rule of interpretation or rule of construction, the term of office of the person holding the office of president as the effective date shall be construed to include the existing term, and the person may contest election for a presidency for only one more term, as provided in the Constitution after the expiry of the existing term. Madam Speaker, laws should be applied based on equity and not to be politically driven. Because you may make a law to target certain individual or group, and it will haunt you back. On that note, Madam Speaker, I submit and beg to take my seat.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Upper Salum.
Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And thank you very much, all the honorable members. Honorable Speaker, we are here today, or for the past few days, to discuss a document which was presented to the President and to the nation by the CRC, who were created by an act of parliament approved by ourselves here. They have done a job, and according to the act also, they have submitted everything they were supposed to submit. They've submitted a draft. They've submitted a report of the Constitution Review Commission on the draft Constitution itself, and they've also submitted an explanatory memorandum to the draft Constitution. So the assignment we gave them to do, to compile views of the Gambian people, they have completed. So we say thank you, CRC.
To correct my records, Jara, just a second. Honorable Member for Jara West, did you raise your flag, your constituency tag? Yeah, okay, I just wanted to confirm that, thank you. So.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have a bill before us, and the bill is the Constitution of the Republic of Gambia 2020 Promulgation Bill 2020. That's what we have here. And it's following procedures that are clearly indicated in our Constitution. It is the bill, and the only difference with other bills that we have seen here, because the Constitution specifically tells us exactly how to deal with it. That is the only difference, but otherwise, the National Assembly, being the only legislative body in this country, has the right to touch, to amend anything they want, because it's just a regular bill, and the Constitution gives us the permission or the power to be able to do that. So for those that are actually sending misleading information to the public, telling that a comma or a full stop cannot be changed, you are sending the wrong message. You have no idea about what you are talking about. These plastic intellectuals, I may call them, sit within the four corners of their houses, start sending messages to people of this country with wrong information, because they depend solely on Professor Google. Here, what we deal with is the Constitution of the Republic of Gambia and our standing orders. That's what we deal with here. So if you're going to say anything dealing with what we do here, you quote the law, quote the standing order, or quote the Constitution of the Republic of Gambia. Do not mislead people. Tell the people the truth. If you have an opinion, it's an opinion, but we must be able to differentiate an opinion and a fact. What you are telling me is just your own opinion, it's not a fact. We need to differentiate that. Please help to educate the population. Do not mislead them. Honorable Speaker, the task I said earlier was completed by the CRC. And the Minister for Justice actually came with a bill that we are actually reviewing. And may I say, I have not seen yet a constitution in this world that is actually perfect. I'm yet to see that, or I'm yet to hear that. Now, for me to make a decision, informed decision, Honorable Speaker, what I did is I made my own independent research in terms of reading the bill and the schedule that was given to me. I've already made use of the explanatory memorandum from the CRC as well, and I've also gone through the report from the CRC as well. I've also consulted with legal luminaries in this country. I've also consulted with the financial expert in this country to help me make a decision. So any decision that I make here today in this parliament, I guarantee you, it is my own conscience. I'm not under the duress of anybody or under any force or any group of people that influence me to make any decision here, not a political party at all. The decision I make here is fully mine, and I take full responsibility. We have, as I go through this document, which is the bill, with the schedule that is before us, I have seen some fantastic and very progressive areas that the CRC actually has recommended. Very progressive, I've seen. If you look at chapters 1 through 5, they have a lot of similarities with the 1997 Constitution, chapter 1 through 5. A lot of similarities and a lot of good things that we can actually nurture as a young democracy. Now, when you go through the political parties also, I think they need to be accountable to the people. I don't see anything that is wrong with this section 84 dealing with political parties. I think it's very progressive. We are servants of the people. We need to be accountable to the people. We need to let people know exactly how we manage our political parties. We need to let people know where are the finances coming from. We need to let them know. They need to understand. It cannot be a one-man show where I will decide everything in a political party. It cannot be that. We need to live beyond that. Now, progressively, Section 89. I think for a very long time, since 2017, most members have mentioned Presidential Address to the Nation, SONA, where we are in the month of September, and the President just addressed the nation last week. Most of us here have spoken for the past 2-3 years that there is a need for the President to come earlier to Parliament to tell us exactly the plans he has for the particular year. How did we do the previous year, and how are we trying to do in the current year? But if you wait until the end of the year to tell us something about the activities of government, what government plans to do, don't you think it's too late? And I think that has been corrected by the draft or the schedule that is given to us. It has been corrected, and I love it. Now, if you go to section 94 also of the schedule that is before us here, that is the disqualification of a president. When you want to contest, there are a lot of requirements that you have to actually undergo, and one of it is your financial information that needs to be submitted to the anti-corruption, and the anti-corruption will vet that whether what you've submitted is the true reflection of your finances. I think that is progress. However, the section was short, because if you submit your financial information to the Anti-Corruption Commission, and they do their research and realize that you actually underdeclared, or there was some falsification, it has not said anything next. For me, I believe if any presidential aspirant has not declared your finances properly, and the Anti-Corruption Commission was able to capture that you've underdeclared, I think you should be disqualified immediately. Because you have been the head of state. The head of state must act in a manner where your ethical behaviors should be exemplary. So that they fall short on that particular section. If you underdeclare or you've shown something that's incorrect, I think you should be disqualified automatically. Honorable Speaker, moving right along. The procedures, which is Section 97, that is the procedures in the election of a president. I think these are also very progressive, actually. If you compare that with the 1997 Constitution, it's really very progressive. The term limit, I think everybody here, I've not seen anyone here yet that has said they don't want the term limit. And during discussions, for people like me, they thought I was crazy when I mentioned one term limit of 7 years. Somebody thought I was crazy, but I was not. But I agree, 2 terms of 5 years, non-negotiable. We must not encourage, or we must not push our leaders where they continue to be on those positions forever. Even if you go to the state-owned enterprises in this draft, they have a term limit. There's a period of time that you can serve as the executive director of a state-owned enterprises. This is progress. This is what we need to look for. You cannot be in those institutions acting as if like this your own. It cannot be that way. We have people. Now, if you also see the most interesting, which is Section 131 of the draft, which is the Director of Public Prosecution. Their independence, I know it has been questioned in some quarters. But I think to help them also do their job better, you make them an independent office. I fully support, and I think that's also progress. They must not be under any influence in cases whether to prosecute or not to prosecute. In case of they want to withdraw a case, they must be on their own without the influence of anybody. They must be independent, and I totally support that. Honorable Speaker, may I also inform the people actually that are listening, the number of people that actually have called me asking me to say yes, and the number of people that are also asking me to say no. And I was very clear. Some of them, I asked them, give me 5 reasons why I have to say yes. Someone asked, give me 5 reasons why I have to say no. But during that conversation, Honorable Speaker, I was able to realize that they, in fact, have not even gone through this draft. So you cannot push me to the corner. I am not somebody that can be intimidated easily. And I cannot be pushed from my patch, because what I believe is what I believe. But I have to listen to the people. I am a servant of the people. I have to listen to their aspirations, what they want. I have to listen. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that will make the decision here. And my conscience will be very clear. I'll make a decision and go home and sleep. So most of them, I ask them to wait till today, then they will know exactly where I stand. In some situations, it's very progressive, but I also have some concerns. And I'm sorry that the Attorney General, actually, I have to put it on you, because the CRC cannot be here to answer those questions, so I'm going to have to put it on you. So I want to apologize in advance. Now, Honorable Speaker, let me talk a little bit about finance. If you look at Section 144, which is talking about development fund. Honorable Speaker, if I may read, Section 44, subsection 1. There is established a development fund into which shall be paid at least 5% of all revenues collected by the government each year, calculated on the basis of the most recent audited accounts of revenues received as approved by the National Assembly. Then 2, the government shall use the development fund only to provide basic services, including water, roads, health facilities, electricity, to marginalized groups. These are et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think this is novel. This is really novel. The only issue I have with that particular section, the only issue, I think the idea is excellent. It's very progressive. If you tell me the 5% of all revenues collected by the government, please listen to me well. In our current situation, in the budget, we have the recurring budget and we have development budget. And I did some math a little bit in my research. What I realized, Honorable Speaker, is this. If I take 5 ministries, like the Minister of Works, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Higher Education, the Environment, their total development budget is about 1.1 billion. They're combined. Now, if I have to take what has been mentioned here, 5% of what government collected is like 50% of that amount. Is that really what we want to do? Do we really want to reduce the development budgets? Or we want to increase it? So my question here is, there needs to be a mechanism to change the way those monies for the development budget actually are collected. 5% is on the low side, if you do the math. Just go back to your approved budget and look at it, the development budget for only 5 ministries, 5, only. You realize that it's twice the 5% that the draft is asking for. Then I ask myself, what was the rationale from the CRC? What kind of figures or what kind of calculations actually have they used to arrive at that 5%? I do not know. Because currently, the approved budget for the 5 ministries, the development budget itself is over 1 billion. But this is way below it. Last year, if I remember right, I think the total collection of GRA was about 11 billion. And if you take 5% of that, you are talking about almost 5.5, which is half of what we actually approved for the budget. So we got to look at that one. The funding mechanism got to change because it's on the low side. Now, I continue right along. Section 248, which is the limit on borrowing, somebody actually has this mentioned. I think this is also a very good thing. We cannot let our debt situation continue to rise, and there is no limit. We must put a ceiling. We must put a ceiling, and in the event that ceiling needs to be busted, then this will come back to Parliament for us to approve. But I think the debt ceiling area in this draft, I think, is a welcome idea, and I think I will fully support that particular one. Honorable Speaker, I need not go further to mention more on these areas that are really very progressive in this draft, really very progressive. I'll shift my attention now to the other side, which is where I have concern, and I want the Minister to help me understand more. Now, Honorable Speaker, if you look at Section 39, that is the protection of liberty, of the schedule that is before me, which is Section 49, freedom of religion and conscience. Subsection 4, sorry, I'm referring to Section 39. Sorry about that, Honorable Speaker, which is protection of liberty. Subsection 4, which an arrested person has the right to, and if you go to F, it says, to be brought before a court as soon as reasonably practicable, safe as otherwise provided in an act of the National Assembly, not later than 48 hours after being arrested. Or, if the 48 hours ends outside ordinary court hours, or the day that is not an ordinary court day, the next day. Honorable Speaker, I think 48 hours is too short. It's too short. We have transboundary crimes, transborder crimes, sorry. We have people that will be in this country and then commit a crime, and investigation needs to go to the other country, to the other side of the border. How can you do that reasonably 48 hours to do your investigation and the charge? We must let the police give them enough time, and I'll go with what the 1997 said, about 3 days, which is about 72 hours. I think that's enough. 48 hours, I think, is just too short. So I think that's one area that we need to talk about, Honorable Speaker, and then when we get to the floor, then we can see what we can do. Now, Section 27 of the draft, again, let me make a reference to that one as well. Restriction on the activities of public officers. I think some people did mention it. Honorable Speaker, this is an actual issue, and I'll give myself as an example. I'm serving the population here in the National Assembly, and I'm also working full-time. But what I do at my office has nothing to do here. And I think most people here would agree with me that, to some extent, I have been effective, and the work that I do actually has not affected what I do in this parliament here. Honorable Speaker, we have seen doctors, we have seen nurses in this country that will finish their office work at the Ministry of Health. From there, they go do part-time or full-time in another institution, private. We want to deny them that right. Let's think about that properly. Even though I understand, this section is actually also saying there may be exceptions. But why can't you just let it open? If you have the interest of your own institution, I mean, there are guidelines. Your work is from 8 to 4 or from 3 to 11, whatever it is. But to restrict people from being able to take up another job somewhere in this country, I think, Honorable, that is backward. We need to let people be able to take any other job, like at the University of the Gambia. I did lecture there part-time, so that means my current situation, I will not be able to do that anymore. We have seen people doing that. The nurses, the doctors, even the teachers themselves. Some of them, you are here. You go, you finish your first shift, and your second shift, you go to a private school and then continue your work. Why should we deny people that? Honorable Speaker, continuing right along, the issue of citizenship. I think a lot of people actually have raised, but the only issue I have with the issue of citizenship is, which is section 173. If you go to the report, it tells you something different. People that are born in this country, Honorable Speaker, they must be citizens of this country. I do understand. People are thinking aloud about the resources of this country. But that should not mean we should deny them right. My first two children, Honorable Speaker, they were born outside this country because I was away. Automatically they were given citizenship. Why would I stand here and deny somebody the same right that was accorded to my children outside this Gambia? Why? Why should I do that, Honorable Speaker? If you are born in this country, Honorable Speaker, regardless of your parents, you should be a citizen. I do understand in other jurisdictions, there are steps that you have to take. Maybe do you call them second-class citizens? Fine. But here, my belief is if you are born here, you must be a citizen of this country. Interestingly enough, Honorable Speaker, when you look at page 49 of the CRC report, page 49 of the CRC report, on the issue of citizenship, it was very clear that the majority of Gambians, that's what they wanted. That's what they told us. It's not that I'm making up stuff. That's what the CRC told us, that the majority of the Gambians, from their consultations, they wanted anybody born in this country to be a citizen of this country. That's what they wanted. But how comes then they have not indicated the will of the people in the draft? Why? If the consultations should be the opinion of the people that you've consulted with, and they said, this is what I want, put it there. But what they put there was contrary. And if you look at the people in diaspora, most of them, that's exactly, most of them, they agreed. So this is what people wanted, leave it there. And let others decide on the next step on that particular issue. And that's the reason why I tend to have two minds when people say that the draft reflects everything on what the people actually wanted. I say no. And I'll give you reasons later on, Honorable Speaker. I'll give you 5 or 6 different examples where the people said this CRC gave us different. I will show you. Thank you. Honorable Speaker, the issue of the issue of age limit, Honorable Speaker. Upper age limit, I mean. Upper age limit. Now, I refer you to page 94 of the, you know, I have to go through all these documents just to ensure that I know what I'm talking about. Go to page 94. And 94, the CRC is actually talking about the upper age limit. In their consultations, on page 94, there were suggestions that there needs to be an upper age limit. Most of the people they consulted, they wanted to have that there, upper age limit. But they could not agree on the age, whether they wanted 70, 75, or 80, they could not agree on anything. But CRC took it upon themselves to actually remove it. But people wanted to have an upper age limit. Why? Honorable Speaker, you see, when we are dealing with this situation, we need to be very careful. You said if you are 18 years of age, you can register to vote, but you cannot be a president until you are 30 years. Why? Because they said that at that time you are 30, the experience may come there. But Honorable Speaker, let's say the facts. One time you are 80 or 85 or 90, Honorable, they start calling you the kid of a nah. That's the reality. We cannot have a president that will stand even on the podium. Somebody has to help him to stand on the podium. We cannot have that. And we've seen that in this Africa here. Why? Why? When we have energetic people of that nation that could do that work. But you stand on the podium, protocols have to stand and flank you. The one we have here, in this continent. Why? So the same thing you are talking about from 18, that you don't have the experience to be president until you are 30, let's do the same thing, because at the time, your mind is actually changing like a small child. By the time you are 80, 85. But you will see people contesting for elections when they are 80, when they are 85 or 90. Why? Aren't there citizens in that particular country that could take the affairs of the country forward? Why don't we have that? CRC has denied us. Because I fully support upper age limit to be a president of this republic. I fully support that. But when people spoke in their reports here, it's very clear when they said on their report here. It says, 94, CRC said this, not me. Having carefully reviewed public opinion, it's clear that an overwhelming majority of Gambians prefer that an upper age limit be prescribed for an aspirant for the office of the president. That's what people wanted. This is not my making. But they remove it. Why? Because they could not agree on the age, 70, 80, well, if you're going to remove it, then just put something there. Then when you come to Parliament, Parliament can look at to see what is actually reasonable and justified. We put that age there. But I fully support the upper age limit. That one, Honorable Attorney General, you have to give me some explanation. Why was it removed when the majority of government wanted it? Why? Because you are the one that bring this bill here. So you tell me, why? Honorable Speaker, the other area I want to touch on, which is the independent institutions. These independent institutions, I think, is a good idea. You are talking about the National Audit Office, you are talking about Anti-Corruption Agency, you are talking about National Human Rights Commission, etc. I think they've been mentioned very clearly in the Constitution that their offices need to be very independent, which we actually agree 100%. But their funding mechanism to allow them to be able to do their job, I do not agree, and I want the Honorable Justice Minister to tell me exactly why. If you say Parliament cannot reduce their budgets, you tell me Parliaments cannot do anything with their budget actually, in actual fact. In fact, even if their budget has to be reduced, it cannot be below what was approved the previous year. Where is good public finance management? Where is it? Budgets are estimates. They are not cast and stone, they are estimates. I'll come to the judiciary later on. But I just want to show that independent institutions cannot have that open concept of their budget, that they budget whatever they want to budget. National Assembly cannot do anything about it. We cannot do that. We should be able to control it. Members, I'm telling you, if we agree to this particular section here, we are tying our hands. We are tying our hands, and we are tying the hands of the Ministry of Finance. That's exactly what we are doing here. We cannot do that. You and I know the nature of this economy. You and I know that every month what GRA collects, that is what is taken and distributed among all the ministries. First about salaries, second about loans that we have taken to pay. And now you're going to allow 5 or 6 or more independent institutions a budget that you cannot control. You tie yourself. Is that what we want? Where is the democracy we are talking about? We need to be very careful. And I would like the Honorable Attorney General, I'm sorry, but again, you are the one that brought this thing to me. Okay, so you have to help me understand why. You have to help me understand. I want you to convince me that this is the right thing to do. Convince me. Thank you. Honorable Speaker, another area that I've also have gone. You see, the confirmation of ministers, confirmation of the Supreme Court judge, of all Supreme Court judges, including the Chief Justice, confirmation of ministers, and the confirmation of executive directors of state-owned enterprises. Honorable Speaker, confirmations are good.
My technical team that you should address the chair.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But, you know. Okay. Honorable Chair, or Honorable Speaker, you see, the confirmations are really very good. But let's tell ourselves the truth, the reality, in the current situation, in the political polarization of this parliament. Let's talk to each other, Honorable Speaker, the situation here. We know what happened to Ndao Njai here when he was brought here for confirmation. We know what happened. The vote was not based, it was purely based on political lines. Is that what we want for the judiciary? Is that what we want? We want to have an independent judiciary. That's what we want. If we really want to have an independent judiciary, we must not take part in their appointment. We must not take part in their. We cannot let them be free. But if the political situation allows, where people think independently from their political parties, yes, I don't have a problem with that. But as long as we are driven by political parties' agenda, Honorable Speaker, I cannot accept that. Thank you. And let me make this clear, Honorable Speaker. In some jurisdictions, we have seen that. Some, they call themselves the beacon of democracy. We have seen them. We've seen how they politicize confirmation of judges. Right now, as we speak, in one state, well, I don't want to mention the country, but right now what happened? One of the Supreme Court judges passed away last week. Now they're trying to, you see the political vultures going on. And what's going to end up happening is, when they go back to the Senate to do confirmation, you know what's going to happen? Party lines. To be honest with you, Honorable Speaker, I don't want that to happen in here. Otherwise, we're going to politicize the judiciary, and that's not what we want. We want to have an independent judiciary. Let's take ourselves from there. To confirm a minister, well, no, I don't have a problem with that. But we must be really very careful. Every single thing, Parliament, they have to confirm. We know we have a lot in our place. We know that. We know we have a lot in our place. We have a lot of outstanding things that we need to do here. Right now, if we don't have more than 20-something bills waiting for us to do something, together with audited accounts of institutions, we have a lot in our backlog. So if you want to add something else on top of it, how effective would we be? I know a member did mention that we need to ensure that we have ministers that are fit for purpose, whatever it is, their education. If you go into the stand of mention 3 stars, whatever it is, let's be careful. Let's turn the mirror and look at ourselves. Do we really have what it takes to be proper representative of the people? Do we have what it takes? Let's turn the mirror and look at ourselves. For somebody that is unable to speak proper English, Honorable Speaker, in this African continent, I think it's not a disgrace. English, French, Portuguese, these are all foreign languages, and they do nothing other than to divide this continent. That's what they have been doing. And I told you, Honorable, for West, when we were in Pan-African, I told them, Francophone, Anglophone, Lusophone, Arabophone, all different, the only thing they do, basically, is the same, divide us. That's why I like the provision where we can speak in our mother tongues in this parliament. I like it. When the people of Salem can understand really what I'm talking about here, I will feel ashamed if I cannot express myself in the Coast Barma language. I'll feel ashamed. I'll feel ashamed if I cannot express myself in Pular. I'll feel ashamed. But English language or French, it's not my mother tongue. Somebody must not be ashamed to speak bad English. No. But you must be ashamed of yourself if you cannot speak your own mother tongue, which is the Wolof of the Pular, whatever it is. You must be ashamed of that. But foreign language, we cannot. So that's why the provision where they allow us to speak in our language, where the people can understand, I love it. And I think that's also another progress in this draft. So we must not caricature people. We must not look low on people because they cannot speak English. We need to move beyond that. So, in short, Honorable Speaker, as far as confirmation is concerned, the judges, I really want them to be independent. Leave them alone, let them be independent. I don't want any confirmation because the polarization that we have seen here. The ministers, well, we can look at it, but the judiciary, leave them alone. Honorable Speaker, there's another particular area here also on financial matters, which I think I did confirm already. If you check section 198, I will refer to 198, subsection 3. Financial matters. You see, that is dealing now with the judiciary. Honorable Speaker, let's call a spade a spade. It's saying, section 198, subsection 3, in considering the annual estimates of the judiciary, the National Assembly shall not reduce the budget of the judiciary below the amount that was approved for the immediately preceding year. When CRC came here with FPAC, our committee, I did highlight this particular section. I said, this is very dangerous for us to do that. I give you reasons why. If we budgeted for building of court complexes this year, we budgeted for the purchase of motor vehicles for the judiciary. Are you telling me the same thing the next year? We're going to have to do the same thing. Is that what you're telling me? These are capital expenditures. These are capital expenditures that could be, well, depending on the kind of accuracy you use, you can take 3, 4, or 5 years before you actually buy it again. Why don't we have the permission, or why don't we have the right to be able to reduce the budget based on the economic situation of the country? Let's not tie our hands. I'm telling you, if you leave it like that, we should change this. If you leave it like that, you are tying your own hands. And you are tying the legs of the Minister of Finance, I'm telling you. Let's remember the economic situation of this country. Let's remember. We depend, when we say hand to mouth, that's exactly how the government depends also. They collect and then distribute. So if you tie your hands, that's a big problem. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, on the same note, the judiciary shall be self-accounting, which is fine, and the monies charged on the Consolidated Revenue Fund, or approximately the Act of National Assembly, for the judiciary shall be paid quarterly. You see another area. In as much as I want the National Assembly to be paid quarterly, sometimes, your own personal reasons, because I understand here more than the judiciary. But we must be careful. Paying quarterly payments, cash allocations quarterly, we need to be careful. If you give National Assembly cash allocation quarterly, you give the judiciary cash allocation quarterly, you give all the independent institutions quarterly. Let me show you an example why that is dangerous. Currently, the average monthly collection of revenue, I'm talking about revenue from GRA, is about 1 billion on average. Out of that revenue, 60 to 70%, sorry, about 30 to 40% goes to salaries. Another 40% is taken by debt servicing. You are almost left with almost 10 to 15%. So the fourth quarter of the following year, the fourth quarter is going to be a problem, because you won't have enough in your reserves to be able to pay the National Assembly, you pay the judiciary, you pay independent institutions. You cannot do that. This alone also is tying your hands. Let the Minister of Finance take the responsibility to divide those finances based on what is available to him. Because otherwise, if they don't have enough in their coffers, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go to the treasury bills. They're going to borrow, short-term borrowing from the central bank. What that does is it's going to squeeze out the small enterprises. Why? Because the banks will go and sell the treasury bills to the Central Bank of the Gambia. Now, the small businesses won't have enough to be able to survive. Let's think twice about this one. This one we have to change. When the economic situation of this country changes, we pray. When it changes, when we have enough funds in our Consolidated Revenue Fund, then quarterly have no problem. But at this stage, if we do, really, I'm telling you, we are tying our hands and tying the legs of the Minister of Finance. We have to be careful. Honorable Speaker, I'm coming to an end, Honorable Speaker. I know you are not, but one area also, Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to highlight, and I really, really want the mover of this motion to help me understand. Because I have a big decision to make today, and he needs to play a part in helping me understand, which is presidential pardon. Mr. Attorney General, or Honorable Speaker, we need to be careful about presidential pardon. Presidential pardons actually is all over the world, yes. But what type are we talking about? Is it the open one? Or is it the conditional one? If you're going to write that in this constitution, you need to tell me which type are you referring to? Are you referring to the open one, or are you referring to a conditional one? For a fact, I would not agree to a presidential pardon that would give somebody a clean bill of health. If you are convicted by the courts of law here, and you want to challenge it, follow due process, go to the courts, get your conviction overturned, if you have reasonable belief that you were convicted wrongly. Acquittal, Honorable Speaker, let's be careful here. We must not give any president any right on a pardon that would equate to acquittal. Acquittal, let that give into the courts. Let the courts decide. Let the courts decide that. We cannot allow any president to give any pardon that will give somebody a clean bill of health. The president may choose to pardon you to not serve the remaining of your term. I don't have a problem with that because it's all over the world for a lot of other reasons why you want to do that. I'm fine with that. But for you to be just because of political connections, they remove you, pardon you, then you are a clean man. No, no, no. You must serve your term for the bad things you have done for society. If you have broken the law, go to the courts. When you are convicted, you are a convict. The president should not be able to wipe out that conviction. Only the courts of law should be able to do that. And that's the reason why I'm saying in this draft here, we must be very clear. What kind of conviction you are talking about? If it is an open one, I don't agree. If it is a conditional one, yes, I'm fine with that. That is, person is acquitted or the person is actually pardoned to not serve the remaining of his or her sentences. I'm fine with that. But anything else, no. Honorable Speaker, to conclude, or just to mention one particular area, which is the implementation of the Constitution once it passes. If you go to, let me see, I think it's going to be under transitional clauses. Yeah, on page 157 of the bill, or the schedule of the bill, it says Commission for Implementation of the Constitution. Section 18, number 18, there is established the Constitution Implementation Commission, which shall have responsibility for the implementation of the provisions of this Constitution. Subsection 3, the chairperson and other members of the Commission shall be a person of high moral character and proven integrity. 3B says at least 2 of whom had served on the Constitutional Review Commission established under the Constitutional Review Commission Act. Why do they have to be on this commission? I need justification. If you think it's fit for purpose, they can be there, you tell me. For me, I think it should be open to every qualified Gambian with a criteria, not a particular sect of our population. They must be open to anybody that qualifies with a criteria. But just to say that, well, their work is done. Their work is done. In fact, if you look at the act, it tells you 1 month after they submitted, it's finished, except the secretary, who could continue depending on what the minister actually wants. That's up to what, if you want him to continue as a secretary, fine. But otherwise, everybody else, 1 month after, it's a finish. So why do you want to add 2 more people on this particular commission as this thing here? Why? What is special about that? Honorable Speaker, on the last note, on the last one, I want us to be really realistic and be very careful. A few months ago, Honorable Speaker, the former Attorney General brought to us public service pension bill for the public service, which we are yet to deal with. In the draft constitution, by the way, I don't have anything against the judiciary. Let me just point blank. I don't have anything against the judiciary. But we must be fair to each other. We all work for the same government. We all work for the same country. There must not be any preferential treatment. And, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the preamble of the Constitution here, the draft, the bill that's brought to us here, the schedule, 1, we, the people of the Gambia, as a sovereign independent state, having had the opportunity to express our views and aspirations on how we wish to be governed, affirm that the Constitution is the embodiment of our will and resolve for democracy, good governance, separation of powers, sustainable environment, and equitable distribution of our resources. That's what it's saying. So why do you want to make the judiciary so special? I want to have answers. Why are they special? Where they will retire after 10 years as a judge, high court judge, and they continue to get the same salary they were getting. When somebody in the public service here in the public service, be it a nurse, a doctor, or a teacher, or a police officer, or an army officer, they can have even 1/4 of that. Is that equitable, Mr. Attorney General? Honorable Speaker, sorry, I need to address you. Yeah, exactly, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Tell me, is that really equitable? Now, tell me, Honorable Speaker, I really want to be clear of this thing. Exactly. You see, a judge, a medical doctor, a nurse, a midwife that are actually taking care of our patients, risking their lives, the military officer or the police officer who's protecting our property, who's protecting our lives. Why do you want to create a special thing for them? And don't tell me this is a noble profession. Don't tell me that, because a teacher is a noble profession. A nurse is a noble profession. All health workers is a noble profession. What is special, I want to know. Why do you want to continue to pay a judge the salary that he retired with? And on top of that, he only needs to serve 10 years in that position. And if you don't have 10 years, let's say from 5 to less than 10, you take 3/4 of that. What is special? A medical doctor that's risking his life, a nurse, a teacher that has been teaching for over 30 years. In fact, teaching that judge. An example, an army captain, right now, the basic salary is almost 9,000 of an army captain. When they retire, using this, the month, well, you know what they have? $2,000 plus, that's what they should have here, minimum. Whilst a judge is sitting down there taking full month's salary. And anytime government increases salary, his salary also will increase. What is special, Honorable Justice Minister? Oh, tell me, please. Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, thank you. Now, Honorable Speaker, in fact, I think I've come to the end of my deliberations. And I want to tell people that have been asking me, say yes or say no, tell them, well, let's wait. Let him convince me to those issues. I have to make a decision. And his answers to those issues that I have would actually help me to make an informed decision. And on that note, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable nominated member, Sam Musa. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker, for giving me the floor to add my voice to the previous speakers, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today is another day. That's why there's a saying, the world is a progressive development. Every time changes. Time is all the time changing, Madam Speaker. I'm addressing you. Madam Speaker, before starting my intervention, may I first of all seek a permission from you in laying the foundation. Yeah, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me the approval for the foundation that I'm going to lay. Why I said the world is a progressive development. Anytime changes come, you see yourself into new things. That's the change. But today is another history that we are making. That's the Quran of the nation. That's the Constitution. where you have the life of the Gambian people, lives, how we're going to govern ourselves. There's no other document other than the Quran and the Bible than the Constitution. That's why I said today is another day of history. Madam Speaker, I remember in 1966,